Hi guys, and welcome to another video in my slow daily living series. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do hit the like and subscribe button and help me to grow this channel. If you're new here, my name is Lungi and I create Christian content from cooking to gardening, and I really hope this video blesses you. So today was my day off work and I thought I would just take 30 minutes out just to freeze some meatballs. These meatballs will be used on another day. I am not cooking them as a pre-warning. I just wanted to make a meal prep so that when I have a day when I'm too lazy to cook, I can just grab the meatballs and cook them in a sauce. I will link the meatball recipe in the description box below and in the screen. I will also link a meatball sauce recipe that I would normally use, even though I'm not making the meatball sauce today. Well, with that, let us just get started. Today, I wanted to speak about God's timing. This is something that I've struggled with a lot in the past. However, I do feel that for the most part, I have overcome the pain of having to wait. Now, the reason why I say that I have mostly overcome when it comes to waiting on God is that at certain times, there's always a voice at the back of my head or my mind that tries to make me rush God's timing. But I actually think this is probably from years ago when I didn't feel good enough. And because I didn't feel good enough, I would compare myself to those around me. And I would believe the lie that I should be doing what others were doing. So if you think about, for example, a baby, babies usually have milestones that they're expected to reach at certain times. So for example, they'll say at 4 months, your baby should be starting solids, or at 6 months, your baby should be sitting independently without falling over, or 12 months, your baby should be walking. These are the type of milestones I'm talking about when you're growing up and you're seeing others around you following a certain path. And at that time, I believed that the path that others were following is the path that I should be following as well. And it was really hard because I used to compare myself a lot to others. And I believe that this is because I didn't feel like I was good enough. So I always just, for some reason, when I was younger, I had a real chip on my shoulder about not doing what others were doing. That really upset me, that I was doing something different. So when I finished uni, obviously I was in my early 20s, or I was probably 24, 25, maybe 24. And by that point, a lot of the people around me were in their first jobs. And me, on the other hand, finished uni, and pretty much after I finished my degree, I got married and had a baby. So in terms of career, I didn't really start my career until I was in my late 20s. So at that time, I started to really believe the lie that I was missing out, and the comparison got worse, comparing myself to friends who looked as though they had it all. They had their careers, they were independent, and there I was as a stay-at-home mum. And I didn't realize that I was exactly where I needed to be in my life at that time. So if I'm honest, at this age of 42, I don't think my career is anything to write home about, but I have come to a place of acceptance over that. And in reality, I became pretty much the opposite of how I was in my younger years. And I've really come to embrace exactly where God has placed me in life. I've just come to love it so much that I wouldn't even want any other life that He's given me. I enjoy what I do. I'm such a homemaker. I love being a homemaker, although that's not what I am. I do have a job, but I just love homemaking. I love cooking. I just love all of that. I really embrace that. And I kind of wish, looking back, I had embraced that a bit more years ago when that's what I was doing. But I'm so thankful that at this point, like, God has got me to a point where I just love it. Like, I absolutely love my life. And the strange thing is that even though I'm content with where I am, there's oftentimes that lie that sometimes comes up from the enemy trying to tell me that I'm not good enough as I am, or that you should be in a different stage in your life. And I think that's sometimes where the insecurity starts to rise up within me, and I begin to question myself. So those are the times I have to keep speaking over myself and keep speaking out or rejecting that lie that the enemy tries to throw at me. And I'm so at peace with where I am, but not just at peace, I'm just completely thriving. And this is the most joyful that I've ever been at any stage in my life. And I believe that's come from a relationship with God and being able to just slow down my pace of life. Years ago, I used to just live in constant rushing about and doing one thing to the next and just having this busy and distracted life. And I would become overwhelmed with anxiety. But now I've just learned to just slow down and just walk at God's pace. And with that, I just feel so fulfilled. I feel really at peace. So I'm very content with just completely slowing down. And yes, there's times where I'm not able to slow down, but I always try and find a time or set aside time where I can just stop. And when I do, I find that the slower I move, the more in tune I am with God. And although it doesn't always look the way I expect it to, I know that I'm more receptive or I'm more open to his presence when I completely slow down. And, it's just the simple things like watching the butterflies in the garden or watching the rustle of the leaves on a tree. And those are the moments that remind me of his presence. And it's in those moments where I actually remember how big God is amongst the chaos and, whatever's happened during the day or the week. Then in that stillness is where I remember who God actually is, and then I'm okay again. And ultimately, the truth of the matter is that I've already overcome all that. It just seems to come up, as if it's truth. But then it's, I've asked God to open my eyes. Like, there's certain things that we believe, but actually they lies. Sometimes if I really sit and I'm still, I just think, I've overcome that. That was a struggle in the past, but I've overcome that and I'm completely different to who I used to be. So it's just about me rejecting that lie and not accepting it, because God has done a new thing within me. So I'm not actually going to accept that anymore. I might have accepted it 10 years ago, but I'm not going to accept it. I know what I know now, and that's never going to change. Like, God's word is truth. God's word is not a lie. So if it's not aligning with what God says, I'm not going to actually accept it. And that is it for today's video. I really hope this video blessed you, and I'll see you guys again in the next video.